6 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. First order of business is approval of prior meeting minutes. We have minutes from March 6th, 2023. Does anybody have any comments about those minutes?
That was the meeting. Over in Philadelphia. Yep. It says something here about the thing that is the mass, probably natural good and natural. Is that just something you can comment, or is that?
I believe that was Bill's comment.
Do we have any corrections to this? Yeah, there are motion. The next batch of minutes we have is June 5th. Approve the media. So, two minor things. Minutes.
Sorry, how can you pronounce
SHRA.
A-D-Y?
Yep. Let's see on the third page. The other top. This section, this was under this section. Should be just so that
Yep, yeah, I can.
just below that, CEO road. It's been large. The next thing that we've got on the agenda is 1768. New application, which is folks gonna talk about it? They're on.
Hi, I'm sorry if I may. This is Lauren Barron. I'm on the Zoom call currently. And I'm the attorney for No Dogs Left Behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd like to say a few words if that's okay with the board, if you're asking for
Or Lauren,
an
you need to
overview.
speak.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Otherwise,
Lauren, I apologize, but you are not, yeah, we can't hear you at all.
Oh,
You keep
okay.
breaking.
I'm sorry. Is there a call-in number that would be easier for me to just call in on a phone?
I am
You're-
not sure.
she's coming through now.
Yeah, you're coming through at the moment. You can give it a shot.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Oh, you're frozen again.
Oh, you can see.
I don't know if it's the service down here or
Yeah.
her, so. Lauren, I apologize if you can hear me.
Okay, I can continue. If
You're on.
if you hear me, that would be great. I'll just review the application and I thank you for accepting the modified application. Deborah Bridges, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
Deborah
That's okay.
Bridges, owner, Style Bridges, and I, along with Jeffrey Berry as operator, are presenting this application. There's been a lot of confusion of discussions of grand plans, of current plans, of down the road plans. And we wanted to submit this application to clarify what we intend to do now. We intend, first of all, to add the sanctuary shelter services. Sanctuary is not written on this application. We actually want both. The term sanctuary in the beginning was kind of an upsetting term, as the definition says it's to bring animals in to live forever. That is not the mission of No Dogs Left Behind. It never was and it never will be. They are a shelter, although they are a no-kill shelter, which makes them in essence a sanctuary. If there is an animal that is not adoptable, they will care for it. But the vast majority of their rescues are adoptable, even over a long period of time. And the intent is to adopt them out, not house them here forever. The intent right now is not to expand the number of runs. There are 60 runs now. They can be used for multiple animals as needed. It was mentioned in the case of an emergency, we may be able to house more animals. That's not the intent. That would be a short-term, very limited situation in a federal emergency or some such case. We are saying there will be no more than 150 dogs on site. And down the road, there may be expansion with improved building, improved sound barriers, improved everything. Our kennel has been there, as you all know, a very long time. They are doing their best to improve it, to address the sound abatement, to address, any issues that have arisen. There were issues with our drainage system was not an issue. They're continuing to use that and that's sufficient. So they're trying to address any of the concerns that have been raised. And they've been very successful. So I will kind of at the end go through some specific issues that have been raised and try to address those, but sticking just to the application. So the application now, they are registered as a shelter, and just a note for future standards by Department of Ag and Markets, they're registered now. To remain registered, they will have to meet all the standards. That's an issue with the registration and the state, which they follow. So there are no additional buildings. At this point, it's the kennel building, there's an exercise yard, and there's a small, used to be the horse barn and is now, has kennels in it. They are all enclosed, soundproof. The dogs are inside earlier than the requirement and don't go outside until after the requirements. There's a lot of effort, and I've been there myself picking up my dogs when they're running down the aisle, getting everybody barking, and I'm standing in the driveway and can barely hear them. I've lived there a long time. He's been there for 50 years. It's quieter than it was before. So, you know, without the drama and the very few saying otherwise, there's a lot of effort that's gone in to make it that way. We tried many things and we were less than successful. They have been very successful, and I'm really proud of that. So to address some of the points, a sanctuary, why bring in dogs internationally when we have a 90% kill rate at a local shelter? The good side is they already work with this local shelter. They've had adoption events and invited that shelter in. They provide opportunities for that shelter to adopt their dogs out to a wider arena, and they've accepted dogs from that shelter. They basically eliminated the euthanasia from that shelter because they have people to work with them and ways to move them forward. But this isn't the view that's presented. They're working with the community. They're working with our vet tech programs. They're working with internships and volunteer programs. And they have a set standard procedure every day. They handle all the dogs, and everyone is handled the same. Our past boarding customers are very, very happy. Their dogs get exercise. A bored kennel dog will bark and it will howl. An exercise tired dog with people around it all day, they're staffed all day long. We were not. Those dogs are happy, they're tired, they come in and lay down. So the noise is very different.
Sorry, Deb, before you move on, that shelter you kept referring to, is that Potsdam Animal
I
Shelter?
believe it's Potsdam Animal Shelter, yes. Potsdam Robbinsburg, I can't remember, I don't recall which one. The capacity, like I said, is 60 runs, that's not changing. The maximum capacity on site is 150. The source of dogs, these animals are treated and vaccinated well beyond what our domesticated dogs are. They're treated and vaccinated and tested and titer tested for more diseases than is required by our federal government. Our federal government has met these dogs at the airport, reviewed their records, which are all online, are all kept with every animal, pictures and medical history with every animal. And they have said they go above and beyond. This is not a fly by night, let's do what we have to do. This is keep them safe. They're brought from other areas. They are sometimes difficult. The security that happens, and there's fencing and there's controls. There is no dog that would be a danger to the community that would ever have an opportunity to escape. It's been said when 2 huskies escaped when they were taken for a walk, they would not have been taken for a walk if they were dangerous. As other people in the community, if a dog escapes the kennel, which sadly we've had in the past, we say, don't approach it. It's scared. It doesn't know you. If you approach it, what's it gonna do? Run the other way. That statement was in no way saying, oh, if you approach this animal, it's gonna be dangerous. That's just more drama. So other shelters, waste disposal, we have a 1,000-gallon septic tank on site that we've used all along. If more dogs are there, come more frequently. It's as the comparisons, as you can see, yes, a dog produces an average of 3/4 pound of manure. We've heard that many times. An average cow, 65 pounds a day. So keeping it in perspective, 150 dogs is equal to 1.72 cows, but that's less dramatic. Urine, a cow is equal to about 7 dogs. So 150 dogs is like 21 cows. There's been a seeker mentioned. We'll do any report you want us to do. But as I've heard, a 50 cow farm does not need a seeker. I don't think a 20 cow facility needs a seeker either. And it's handled so it's not in the field. It's not harming our streams. It's not doing any of these. It's collected and it's removed.
How often are they picking that up right now?
That was my
It's
question.
3 times, I think 3 times a year right now. Based on the population. If it was more, then we call them and they'll come as often as we want them to. And
That's
certain,
pumping out the septic tank, you're saying 3 times a year.
yes,
Were you asking, I was wondering about all animal waste is regularly cleaned up and properly disposed of. You
all day
mentioned-
long.
Okay,
We cleaned it up twice a day.
okay,
We had staff in the morning at night. Their staff is there around the clock.
okay. You mentioned an SOP, so I was
Right,
wondering.
right,
Okay.
yeah. And the outside areas as well, they clean it up and put it into the tanks.
Okay.
So it's not washed down, it's cleaned up. The hours of operation, 8 PM to 7 AM. And to say, we've run a kennel for many, many years, and, you know, we like to get them out, we like to exercise them, but we're very cautious of the noise. There will be some sound during the day, but if a dog goes out and is barking and is unruly, it's not left out. No dog is left out on that property alone, ever. And things have changed. This is a different project. It's different than us. Unfortunately, there's an assumption, oh, more dogs, more noise. And there's no confirmation of where is it coming from? Are there other dogs in the area? I'm sure our neighbors in our community have dogs and I'm sure they bark, but I'm sure they haven't taken the steps that have been taken here very seriously to account for that. So we appreciate, your attention to this. If you have any other questions, I apologize for my look. I'm not the healthiest right now, running a little fever, so I'm like, if you have any other questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them.
Yeah, I got a couple.
Fire away.
The historical capacity of the kennel, was it always 60 spaces, 60 runs?
Some of them have been expanded. We had about 60 runs. Some of them, like 2 small ones were made 1 big one, and then a larger one may have been added in the exercise area. So it's always been around that. We also had a whelping room, and other cages that we would use, and they don't use those. So it's always been right around between 50 and 60
And what's usual capacity for a drive?
for a run.
Yeah, for how many animals?
They're set to be single occupancy. If an owner comes in and has 2 animals, then we allow them, as long as they can eat together, they can be together and play nice. Very rarely does someone come in with like 3 chihuahuas and they to separate one would be heartbreaking. So, okay, we'll put 3 in. They're not intended to be multiples. In an emergency, we could put multiples together that get along, but that's not the intent.
Gotcha. So density wise, historically at the kennel, what was the average number of dogs over time in your experience at the?
It varied, probably between, I'd say 20 to 30. Preparing to sell, we had a list of 200 customers. So, during July, August, September, it was very full. We'd sell out. And there were 40, 80, there'd be 90 plus dogs on site.
Whoa, historically. at what
Yes,
capacity?
because we had kennels in the lower barn
Gotcha.
that we would put 2 larger dogs together from the same family, or we would double, triple ours up. And there were 40 some runs inside. So, we could house that much. On an average, I would say probably less than that. And this is holiday time.
Sure.
This is busy, random weekends, 6, 10.
Gotcha.
So there was a big range. The holidays were much busier than in between times.
And currently, how many dogs on site?
7.
7.
And I'll say, we used to have exercise runs outside. We had a puppy run. We breed, raise and train English setters. Those were all taken down because we weren't comfortable with the noise abatement. So, these are some of the efforts that we had done in the past.
Planting trees,
putting up fences. I've spent thousands of dollars trying to moderate the noise problem.
And that's significant.
Yes,
To neighbors, no doubt, no doubt. And that comes with the use, right? If you're gonna have that type of use, those come with it, right?
Yeah, so we currently, as Devin has mentioned, we have staff that's there all day long. The dogs are always attended. And the fencing is double paneled. There's 3-inch panels on one side, panels on the other side. And the enclosures, the rooms that they're in outside has roofs and side panels. Everyone's welcome to come visit the shelter.
You know, that's an interesting piece, because I think that'd be good for the planning board.
Yeah, everyone's welcome to come. You're welcome to come sit in my house and spend a day in my house.
What's the current staff look like during the day, like number wise staff?
Oh, we have two people in the morning, one person in the afternoon. So, and that's every day. You will welcome to spend the whole day there. It's my pleasure. And so I think pictures speak 1,000 words. And so everyone here from the board as well.
So will you be doing the boarding business at the same time?
We always support business, so we offer that to the community.
Yeah.
And the community absolutely loves it. The dogs love it there. And we would never take that away from the community.
So trying to do the boarding and the rescue at the same
We
time.
absolutely do it together.
So do you keep a certain number of spaces for the boarding?
Absolutely.
Or is that always in flux?
We absolutely keep space in the boarding.
So how many do you keep for the boarding?
There's about 3 to 5 spaces for boarding.
Per board, okay, so pretty minimal.
We had, there was one week we were filled up and we could take in boarding. That was good. But our dogs, they move very quickly, so our adoption rate is very high.
Okay,
And our dogs move very quickly.
on average, you'd say how long do they spend at your facility?
I would say that our dogs, they probably stay 3 to 5 weeks
Okay,
at max,
so where are they primarily going?
all over the country and all over the world. Yeah, our adoption rates, we probably have a very high adoption rate.
I have a few questions too. You're proposing adding a veterinary clinic there?
We added the veterinary clinic, because of the wording of the regulations. If they have medicine on board, on the site that's ordered by a veterinarian and they are to administer it, it's felt it's safest to add that now. There are discussions with a veterinarian to possibly come and do some services directly. So I thought it was better to add it now, but it's not going to be, right now, like an open public veterinary clinic. It's going to serve their dogs on site, if needed, so.
Okay, because if you have somebody that's actually practicing there and serving the public as a veterinary clinic in New York State, the veterinarian's required to own the place.
they're required to only- Okay,
You have to have veterinary ownership of a veterinary clinic.
that's good to know.
If you're working with a veterinarian and you've got some prescription drugs there that have been prescribed by the veterinarian, you're allowed to do that. But if you actually want to have a veterinary clinic there, you have to have a veterinarian owned.
But if somebody from your contacted on that,
Yeah.
So
So I would say that you don't need that on your application.
And for right now, I think there will be other applications. I think if you want to remove that's not an issue right now.
Yeah.
It's not clear what the direction is, and that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, I had a question about, it sounds like your waste disposal is addressed,
Mhm.
how does like the runoff from the kennels get into the septic tank? Is it got drains that
It
go
it
to
rains
the,
right in the building.
and is there a leach field for that?
There is. It's pumped out, it's designed so, as the tank fills, if it fills up, it will drain off. But we try to keep it pumped out so that
Okay.
it's not draining.
Okay,
Guess what, while we're on septic and waste, the dog cow comparison. This was new to me for some time, but the agricultural use has a ton of land use protections. So they don't have strict septic component as a use like kennel capacity or shelter would have in terms of the waste, unfortunately. So those ag uses are protected in that way. Whereas, say, a use that is dog or cat related.
Those are really the same.
Exactly,
Okay, thank you.
from the ag market side of things.
And thank you.
I had a couple more questions. It says that No Dogs Left Behind holds adoption events that includes other local shelters. Has this actually happened yet, or is that something that's still in the planning?
Oh, sure, we open our doors to,
No, but have you had an actual event? This says an event.
we just had an event out in the Hamptons this weekend. And we just,
On Long Island?
in Long Island, yeah, yeah.
Whenever local event, with the
Yeah.
local.
Oh, no, we haven't had any local events here
Okay.
yet. No,
Are there any anticipated?
yeah, absolutely. We look to have,
But I mean, like,
we have nothing on
it's
the
easy
calendar
to
yet.
say, yeah,
We have
that's,
nothing on the calendar
that's
yet.
a better answer.
And honestly, I've been trying to keep them focused on this board, this meeting, and this, and as to limit things in the public for right now.
Fair
We
enough.
felt it was appropriate to come to you first. So I've been kind of a drag actor on public events as of late.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Another question that I've got is, if you have that many animals, somebody dies. What's happening with dead animals out there at this point?
but what
How
happens?
are you disposing?
Oh, if somebody
Of dead
died,
dogs.
they would have to get cremated. Cremation would be the form of disposal.
And you're working with,
We don't have any, we haven't had any, but if we did, that would be the source of,
okay,
I think, what's the plan? Who would you?
I don't even, we would have to source it out here.
that's something that you probably should
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah, we.
in place ahead of time,
Yeah, we would.
because stuff happens and somebody dies.
Yeah, no, we would have, we'll work with the local vet to have a source of cremation.
That must exist at some of the clinics.
I know Canton Animal Hospital has
Yeah, we
cremation
do that,
service.
and everywhere in the world, all of our operations in the world, that's how we handle it.
But would you plan to have it on site or contract?
No, contract, gotta be done first. Yeah. it's- Cremation is the way to do it.
And your community connections, it referred to public use of the dog exercise park. Is that available yet, or is that still to come?
We open our parks to everyone. People can come use our parks anytime they want.
have you advertised it for use?
Oh, no, not yet.
Yeah,
Well,
you said
just
no.
to the boarding, or
the boarding.
The
customers.
boarding
we
customers.
don't know about boarding customers to use our parks.
Okay. And you said you were working with the Potsdam Animal Shelter for finding homes for dogs from there?
We would take overrides right now. We're looking for sources for them. We're looking for additional dogs to adopt out. We're running low on sourcing for dogs. We're not taking in more dogs from Asia right now. So we're gonna be opening up our doors to them, taking dogs from them.
Would that be specifically Potsdam or
Well,
Any of them.
any of them.
the local ones?
I think that we're gonna look for the one that's most killed. That would be the best source for us right now.
Okay,
The highest kills probably where we're gonna go,
do you know which one that is at this time?
not yet.
You said there's currently 70 dogs on site
Yeah,
with a 3 to 5 week adoption
yeah.
rate. So how many of that 70 would you say are have their tickets written and are ready to leave?
Excuse me?
Within the next 3 to 5 weeks, how many of those 70 are spoken for? You said your numbers are gonna be down.
We should be, I would say that, 3 to 5 will be leaving. Every 5 days, 5 to 10 days, yeah.
But I mean, is that, those are set to go, or is
Yeah,
that hypothetical? Those are.
No, that's what happened, that's the adoption rate, like. for
Okay, but you don't have
example,
names, people with names on dogs right now.
No, so for example, this weekend,
Uh-huh.
5 dogs.
Okay,
They weren't spoken for, but they left,
okay,
so
2 new homes.
2 new homes, yeah. So that's the adoption rate. So,
Okay, there's no.
so-
like,
so it's not- so they don't
process
fill it.
or
yeah, so,
what's the process look like?
so the process is that.
I want a
we-
dog.
Yeah, so they are promoted on social media.
Okay,
We do social media blasts and people see them from New York, from Chicago. They say, I like that dog. And they drive up 7 hours and they come pick up the dog. Or we have a transport from Canton that goes to New York JFK and they meet the dog in JFK.
okay.
It's very simple.
Do you have a screening process
Oh,
for
very
potential owners?
Applications are available online
You
for
can-
adoption,
yeah.
and they use foster homes as well. So sometimes they're fostered out.
2 of the dogs that we, this weekend were fostered out. So we have a very strict screening program. You're more than welcome to test it yourself. You can test the system yourself. Yeah. 3 of the dogs, 4 of the dogs we have are from community shelters. We have this at our sanctuary.
Anybody have more questions? At this point, in this process for your, site plan review, the normal thing is we will have a public hearing. And we would push to have that at our next meeting, but the laws require us to have so much time to announce that, so that people. Yeah, we have to announce it ahead of time by a certain number of days.
Okay.
And then the public can come and comment, ask questions. And that will be the time for the public to have a forum
Okay.
on this. And I'm gonna push to have that happen at our August meeting.
Yeah.
Which should be the first Monday in August.
First Monday of August.
Yeah.
Chair Keller, I got a couple questions on that process.
Sure.
When you're done, or it's okay to go for it now.
Sure.
Okay, so, the process in terms of, the application, the use as it stands with the current regs are, the shelter use is not permitted, as I'm sure you're well aware. Whereas the current Canton land use regulations for the special permit process. Town of Canton is adopting new land use regulations that have these uses, what they plan to at their next meeting. That's what this pre-application is for, the town's new set of regulations, correct?
That was my understanding. It was also my understanding because we had acted as the town of Canton's municipal shelter in the past. And we met with a lot of people doing our due diligence before this arrangement was ever discussed. That it never occurred to us that the shelter was not allowed. We didn't discover that until well into the process. So we noted the timing is not correct.
The timing has left us all with some serious gray zone.
I believe that, and I apologize, I said.
If I could just say one thing, I'm sorry. This is Lauren Barron speaking. The application in front of you is for a special permit, and it's under the current zoning, as in the current zoning code. If the new code is adopted, as is by the town board, this use actually would not require a special permit. It would be a permitted use in the district.
That is correct.
And that's how we had prepared it in the beginning, was adding these additional permitted uses and being under the impression that the shelter was already permitted. And then realizing that the new laws did not, then it did, so then the application, but that's why it wasn't, but we met with the IDA, the county planning director, economic development, code enforcement, SUNY Canton, we met with everybody and anybody saying this is the plan, and getting approval and direction and comments prior to anything even being considered. So it was a misunderstanding mostly on my part that this was allowed, you can come in and shelter is allowed, and then it was clarified that that was not the case, so.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon countywide,
Yeah.
where
Mike, is the town board voting on the new zoning? Is the town board voting on the new zoning laws at this month's meeting? Do you know? No?
right, so that's a good question.
Because of solar.
So that's all still up in the
That
air.
will be, well, that'll be at the August meeting.
So it's probably worthwhile for you to continue to keep this process going, because we don't know for sure what's going to happen with the town zoning laws.
And you mentioned pre-application, meaning this was intended to be the application, so, but I don't know if the terminology is correct, and if it's the old zoning law, the new zoning laws, we may need to correct the terminology.
No, it's all, in the new zoning law, there's still pre-application to get everything. What they need, or I need, or you need, or any of the developers or anything needs. It's just a good idea. And then the process moves. smoothly. Then they're all on the same wavelength as the developer. I'm calling you developer.
Right.
It makes everything smooth.
So to help with the communication, that's why I have been the contact person. So there were just many people involved, they're doing what they're doing, and they had their staff trying to help, and that's why I'm trying to be the contact person, so whatever you need, I will have for you, and whatever McQuaid needs, I will have for him. And I'd be glad to provide anything you need.
Okay.
And if I may,
Just
just for a moment, this is Lisa Weaver. I'm a colleague of Lauren Barron's at Weaver Mancuso Brightman, working with No Dogs Left Behind. Just to kind of piggyback off of what Lauren got in a moment ago, she did have to step off the call. To the point of the discussion of, how do we proceed between now and when they vote on the new code? Yes, I think No Dogs Left Behind will continue with the application that they have pending, which again is just for a special use permit. Provided they satisfy the criteria for a special use permit, it should be passed. So while we appreciate and are happy to field all of the questions about potential future applications for expansion or future uses, obviously we've been happy to do that. Deb showed that, Jeff will show that. But again, moving toward that public hearing in August, I just want to, reiterate that the special use permit application is what's pending. And that we have shown that those criteria are satisfied by the current and proposed use right now.
Lisa, question on that. So, but currently the shelter is not a permitted use in the town's current regulations.
Correct. So the special use permit is to use as a shelter, but provided we satisfy the criteria under the code, that special use should be granted. So, we have shown those criteria in terms of buffer, in terms of dogs, being inside during the right hours, the building coverage of the property, and setback, et cetera.
Still think there's some confusion here. So within the rural zone, the uses that are permitted by special permit are kennel and I think animal hospital. Shelter is not mentioned. You confirm that?
Let me just double check what I have in front of me. I apologize.
Because the new regs, these uses move out of the special permit regulation and just as a permitted use requiring site plan review only. Special permit requires some extra set of review, one being the public hearing and neighbors are notified, that kind of thing. Currently, and that's, a big bugaboo with this application is the uses in current operation when it's not permitted in the zone.
Correct.
We did that as a favor to the town, frankly. I mean, we never went through any application process. We were approached by the town and the dog warden at that time because there was very little cohabitation arrangements for the dogs.
Historically,
2013.
historically, and very well, that may have been historically, the town's regs didn't even have that use listed, but things have changed over time, laws change, land use laws change, and that's where we are present day. But the historical context is important for sure.
I'm having trouble just locating all of my application documents on one screen. So if I can certainly follow up for clarity on that.
The simplest thing might be for you to put it concisely in an email to me, the chair, because your Zoom transmission has been intermittent. And that way I could have the gist of your comments clearly in front of
Sure.
all of the members, if that's possible.
Well, yep, we'll make sure to submit just supplementary comments post-meeting. We'll get something over to you and to clarify.
Okay, that'd be great.
But I think just to clarify, I think Dakota, correct me if I'm wrong, the point is that it's currently being used in a manner that requires a special use permit. So you're using it before the special use permit was granted, I think is the point that's trying to be made.
Well, more so, the use isn't permitted at all.
Okay,
So within, say, you have the rural zone, which is the majority of the town, and then you have the uses that are permitted that require site plan review, then uses that require special permit. And the uses listed in the special permit, currently the shelter's not included, but the kennel is and animal hospital.
Would the appropriate application be to request a variance of use because it's not defined?
Great question. So yeah, if the town, if you were to proceed, yeah, you would request a use variance, which is typically they're difficult to get because you're asking for a use that's not permitted in the zone for, it could be for very valid reasons, or it's just not listed for valid reasons as well. It's usually hard, it requires another special permit process and approval by the county planning board or review by the county planning board as well. Definitely some extra steps are involved, usually the variance. Now, an area variance, different, usually easier to get when you're varying the lines, but the use can be harder.
Would
Do you
that
have-
be a more appropriate
do you have any-
avenue because it's not defined? Unfortunately, the new zoning laws did not get adopted, which would make the question mute.
Right, I know, so the best thing would be is a waiting until the town board figures out adopting new regs. However, actually, I'm not sure that's the best plan here, because there's a use current operation that's not permitted. So yeah, applying for the use variance would be one method because of the town board, who knows if they're going to adopt that or not.
Thank you. Appreciate your input.
Do you have any other comments, Mike? Well, I think we've touched on what we need to for tonight on that, and we'll continue the process. And we'll be in touch,
Thank you very much.
okay?
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
thanks for the information.
Please do come by instead of the time We would love to have you.
I think, sure, that's a good question.
Are there other members of the public that would like to speak here tonight?
I don't know. If you want to,
I would make a motion that we hear from any other members of the public that would like to speak. If they're here, if they're here in August.
is there a
That's my
second?
motion.
Is there a second for that motion?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The board has voted to allow members of the public to comment if they choose. I would ask that you keep your comments concise and especially because we got a public hearing next month and a lot of comments are already on the record from our June meeting and from the emails that the board has received in the last month. So if you have something new and different to tell us, would welcome hearing that. If it's stuff that we already have information on, then that's already on the record. If anybody wants to speak. Okay. Well, we'll proceed then. For new business. Mike, do you want to speak on the, you don't have to stay if you don't want to, or you're welcome. No, or you're welcome to stay and hear about some more solar stuff.
Just to verify, do you have the date for the next meeting where which the public hearing will be? Do you have that date?
August 7th at 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. folks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Styles, give her a 1 gram butte. Give her a butte tablet.
Yeah. No, it was wrong. I was down for 3 days. I left work at Thursday afternoon. And I was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I was 102 temperature, cold, wet. I tested negative for COVID. I got Lyme disease test. Without mowing the lawn.
Anyways, you're on.
Okay, new business. I have been contacted by Holler Engineering out of Rochester. They are going to be the engineering firm for the 268 State Highway 310 East and 268 State Highway 310 West solar sites. They are the engineers for the development. The solar company is NextAmp. At the present time, no plans have been submitted.
Do they want to have 2 sites there?
Oh, so
Where will it be another 10 megawatts?
No,
5 and 5.
yes, because due to NYSERDA credits, you can't put a 10 megawatt site on one parcel. If you split it into 2, you get credit for this one, you get credit for this
Falls under the community solar.
Yeah,
one. Correct.
yeah. They have to stay under the 5 megawatts.
So geographically, 268 is where?
That's what it's.
Right across
The John Hayes farm?
Vermont, right across from the old folks.
So,
It's on the sharp curve where State Street comes in.
so right across from the project we
Correct.
last approved,
Yeah.
right? So
I really,
well, the new regs that the town will hopefully adopt in terms of solar, does it not include that area? Is there a buffer around the village boundary? So we're gonna be up against an awesome swarm of awesomeness with a potential project going right there when I thought we were trying to limit that to a degree around the village boundary.
the unfortunate thing is they'd have to get a variance.
The one that you
Oh,
just
under
mentioned.
the new
Right.
regs. So they're gonna submit their application before the town adopts the new regs to get in before the new regs are back.
They were honestly, Dakota, they were supposed to be here tonight.
So has the application been submitted yet?
No.
Ah,
I have nothing.
The other thing is,
In the 1%
That's
retainer,
ground.
1% escrow check.
so it's prime ag, right?
prime ag, been growing corn for years,
Yeah,
tile
The
ground.
whole back part is
yeah.
not wet hay ground.
Oh, the back,
Yeah, the back.
so it would depend maybe on where they wanted to put it.
Last I knew was.
According to-
So-
And that's it, you need to see something, you're talking on the phone and trying to get it in your head, seeing everything. They're gonna go up the driveway
Exists
towards the farm. And then
together to spread the cost.
It's behind
So.
that part of the
there's
farm.
capacity,
Like great.
however, if we get.
one way this
Not
way,
like the other
Substation,
kind of like-
So it would not be using the ground right next to 310.
Because it was cost.
Okay, 'cause that's-
Wood
that's
chips,
down.
but
no,
Okay.
that's what you're saying.
man, I thought we were, I really did.
Are they gonna pay to upgrade the substation?
That's.
I
not-
told,
That was my question initially.
I spoke to the developer, or I spoke to the engineer, and I told him. I had a developer look at that site, and there was not enough.
Yeah.
And that was back end of last year,
So the conversation about a substation is not being had.
has not been mentioned.
Yeah.
So historical context on that piece of property, a solar project was.
Norbit
Right,
purchased the property with the condition of the solar developer,
correct,
solar development being there,
correct.
but the 310 project across the road was in front of it in the queue, so that
Interesting.
Nixed it on the basis of capacity,
mixed it on the.
Yeah. but the capacity issue has been resolved. Unless they get in line before.
No, you gotta be in line. I
Right,
mean,
Yeah, but where is the where's the cutoff?
but if we're already at the cutoff with the proposed projects.
I,
Okay,
maybe they are paying for it.
but that conversation, you're not privy to that.
Yeah.
Maybe they know
they
somebody who
give-
can actually. do
If
it.
they give that Mohawk, well, St. Lawrence was gonna give me $1 million to upgrade the substation, so
Oh,
SLU was?
that has,
that's why they said, no, we're not.
Which one, the one now past the wooden bridges there?
Yeah.
They're bird watching.
so,
But they had an $8 million to upgrade that substation.
Mike, do you recall the new land use regs for the solar use? What is the language in regards to the village boundary? As the town surrounds the village boundary.
The reason the reason the new regulations were tabled was the current use of the property being sold was a permitted use with site plan review and special use permit
Right,
in a rural district.
right.
2.5 years later, 40 meetings, trying to get things to jive and work, make things smooth. We decided, and you looked at it twice, being at the county, and everybody's reviewed it. We took some areas that were rural and made them residential agricultural. We made them
Right.
residential. So that kicked the use of solar out.
Right, I can't
That's in
remember,
the new.
yeah, and I can't remember the geographies. What I was thinking, we would.
Out Judson Street,
Right, but it's
residential.
relatively small though. Right, like the buffer around those areas.
Or they continue the use. They continue that far.
Right, the residential piece.
Instead of closer to the village, they rural residential, somebody wants 20 acres with a hobby farm. Well, that wasn't allowed, but now it's allowed.
I had a critique months ago, which I never acted on, and I feel like it should be shared with the town board, and maybe just from me, not from the planning board. That it's almost as if like a half a mile buffer around the village boundary you should know. And that's very reactionary in many ways. However, we saw community input from the previous projects that have been approved and support those. But what do we have is there a threshold that we should be prepared for? Should we set that threshold, or should we, as the new regs stand, the village boundary is still up for grabs as it pertains to the solar use? And Rich Road, if that gets built, in addition to the other projects, pretty significant encroachment on the village boundaries.
Well, and you've got two projects right now that we've approved that are right there.
I'm with you, and
You
that's,
know, the Judson Street one and the 310 one.
I'm with you, and in many ways, that's okay, that's what the law was set up for, but then, laws change because the use becomes too much for the town to handle in some ways.
Your neighbor will be starting.
They're gonna actually start.
I saw a tractor and trailer load of solar panels coming up Route 11.
You did. Yeah, they're gonna be starting.
No joke. No, couldn't believe it. I was like,
I don't believe it's, I
His
don't believe
project
it
was
stopped
the
next to
first-
me.
His project's the
no, I'm
first
not
one.
saying it's stopped next to you. I'm just saying like it's.
Next to him was the first project issued and paid for.
So the town board is probably not gonna revisit the new land use regs until August.
They're gonna, the committee hasn't met yet,
The land use committee.
the land use.
So fellow board members, I'm gonna write a letter to the land use committee and submit it to you, Mike, and you can pass on to the land use committee about some sort of additional language in regards to village boundaries. We don't have to do it as a planning board. I'd be glad to do it as an individual, but if you want to attach your name to something like that, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, put it in writing, I'll just. send it to the committee.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would support that.
Cool.
We can either co-sign or we can beat you up about it.
I'll put it out there if you wanna add your name.
Okay.
And they're gonna revisit we did finalize the biodigested law. That'll be revisited, that'll be again, put on the agenda for August too.
Yeah, and that's part of the new land use regs, right? The biodigestal law. Have any of you read that? I've read it.
What, the law?
Yeah. the
I
biodigestal-
haven't given it to anybody.
It'd be cool to look at the August meeting for the planning board.
I'll send it tomorrow.
Cool, that'd be great.
So are the developers for the Hayes Farm likely to come in August?
The law.
The developers for the Hayes Farm project, are they likely to show up in August or we have no idea?
No idea. I got an email over the weekend. I didn't answer it. I answered it today. Some guy is coming up and wants me to meet with me to go over what to do for solar development and everything. We start with A, we're gonna end with Z. Those are everything you have to do.
Yeah,
Here you go.
just like everybody else. Okay,
Doesn't sound like it's gonna happen very fast.
you have anything else new for us?
I did enjoy the tour of the solar development over in Canada. Before the meeting, I spoke to Dakota and
That was a
our
sheep grazing.
New York State regulations. Not thinking, not everything. This development is sitting on 300 acres. Far as the eye can see, they did sheep grazing, total of 300 head he said 2 acres. And then he moves it every day. Which he only started in 2016. this was after the fact. He just kept driving past the farm. He said he has dogs to control them, also the coyotes.
Does the fence go down to the ground?
The fence goes under the ground.
The perimeter fence.
The perimeter
Yeah.
fence goes under the ground, but I think it was between 20 and 50 feet,
Through.
Okay, the wildlife gaps.
Yeah.
wildlife. Which, thinking, why not? You're protecting, his main, like he said, I asked him, if you were involved in this development from the get-go, what would you do? Water.
Filling tanks is very time consuming.
Oh,
Driving.
have it,
Water.
have it plumbed.
Have it
You
plumbed,
can put a little
have,
well right there.
have 2 wells at wherever, he said, water.
Is-
Black tube in it is-
Did he talk about economics at all? Can he actually make money?
I think
Is,
I don't know, I was
is the solar company paying him to do it?
Because when they spoke at
He's
that.
not,
time at the
he's not
hotel-
making any money on wool.
No, nobody.
He
No.
said, now, quote me, he told me like 98 owns. Oh. Sheep, wool.
Why would they graze wool sheep? Because they have
That's what he has, probably. We get about 5 pounds per sheep.
Yeah, he only got 61 now.
Yeah, we usually get a bill from the trucking company. So we just.
He said, so if anybody wants any wool. I was, when he said that,
That's true everywhere.
okay. I'm glad you,
But I was concerned about, when they did that talk at the hotel that we were all listening to. They were gonna, figure out how much it costs to have the sheep there, and they're gonna pay that much, and then as the sheep people started to make more money, they were gonna decrease what they paid them. And it's like, we'll be lucky if they're making money even when they're paying them, so I don't know. I would have asked them, I guess.
but see, he was already in,
Yeah.
he was already in the sheep.
Yeah,
He was taking his sheep from his farm down the road 10 miles.
wherever he could find grass, yeah.
So he kept traveling and kept going by this and going by and finding. So, yeah. Other than that, Ian, that's,
Okay. Our next meeting, at this point is scheduled for the 7th of August.
I will be out of town, but I might be able to zoom in.
Okay,
I should be all set for attendance.
reasonable for most people.
Baseball games.
Might be, but I don't know, this week after the fair.
Ian, before we leave new business, I want to talk about, public comments in business meetings beyond, the public hearings. And, it's been, I'm quite often one that will go, hey, can we hear from the public? Is there a way for us to make that part of our standing procedure? In meetings, and would people be open to it? And the reason I ask is that, there's at least one occasion that I can think of where I wished I'd heard the comments of the people in the room prior to our vote, essentially. We've gone through the process, we come in, we do our business, we go through the process. And then at the end, we say, well, there's people in the room, do we want to hear their comments? And I wish we could have the other way around.
Anybody's allowed to attend, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
meetings
they're
are all
meetings,
open to
so-
the public.
Just can't necessarily.
But I'd be interested in hearing, in making it part of our standard procedure. I don't know what the standard practice of the town board is. I've heard that it might be hear public comments before and after the business meetings. I see you nodding your head, yes.
Yes, they have a set procedure where they do public comment, 3 minutes per, no longer than X minutes. I don't know what the deal is, over maximum total. And then, no response from the board, it's simply straight comments, so it's not questions. And then they open it up for a second set of public comment towards the end of the meeting. I could get a copy of the agenda, a sample agenda to show you.
See, and I mean, for consistency's sake, I would, be interested in having a format similar to that if people aren't opposed to it. I agree. I'll open that up to discussion. Do I do that?
Do you want to send us, shoot us an email that has that?
Yep.
How it fits into their meeting?
Yep, absolutely. And there are details of how they run their public comment as well that I can grab. Yep. But I'm not gonna promise it'll be tonight.
Not going to bed.
I'll
though.
sit right at the computer waiting.
Well, it does, I guess the question is, where does that go from here? Is that something that will now be on our agenda for our next meeting? Or where does this issue go from? Or do I make that motion now? Or
Do you want to make a motion?
I mean, I guess we'll vote on it, right? So I'll make a motion that we change our normal operating procedures for meetings to follow the public comment procedures of the town board operating.
Can we see what those are first?
Right now, that might mean it's next meeting. So we could table that motion for the next
Next meeting?
That would probably be good.
Yeah,
Good with that?
We'll add it, on the agenda.
Yeah.
So,
Got it.
One last piece. I'd like to thank Chairman Keller and Michael Quaid for sharing all the correspondence that's been coming from the
Oh,
public
yeah.
about
yes,
the no dogs. Left
yes, thank you.
project. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Mhm.
That provides a lot of.
The comments are all over the place.
they are all,
It's interesting. They make a lot of good points in the room.
But the bottom line, the sharing information is critical.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Well, it's supposed to come to me, as chair.
Yeah.
And then I can get it to all of you.
Appreciate it.
But try to do it in a timely manner. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I didn't know.
Oh, but your opinion counts.
So my opinion.
Yeah, we're
Guys,
Operation, how do these patients, that things where somebody owns.
Oh, like, that's my
Yeah.
type of thing.
So
when I.
They have some veterinary ownership.
I saw, you were digging.
Yes.
It wasn't coming out. I think I could be all right, but it's not.
Don't necessarily have to own the building.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're all aware of.
and there's, the state has
Yeah, of course.
some,
Well, that's where I-
rules like
yeah.
that.